All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 4:37 p.m. Alder Galvin, Alder Burnett, Alder Hutchison, Alder Johnson are all present. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Galvin, a second by Hutchison. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, approval of minutes. Number 1, approval of the Finance Committee minutes from the March 14th, 2023 meeting.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Galvin, a second by Hutchison. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item E, regular business. Number 1, consideration and possible action to accept a $1 million grant from the Medical College of Wisconsin to establish and operate an Office of Violence Prevention. Staff.
Chief, is this going to get turned over to you or Cheryl?
I can certainly start.
Thank you.
I can tell you about this. So this is a grant that we applied for a while back from the Medical College of Wisconsin. It was an opportunity that kind of landed in our lap to apply for this grant. Originally, as you, at least those of you who were on council in the fall and winter of 2021 might recall, part of our comprehensive gun violence strategy that we developed at that time was to establish this Office of Violence Prevention. This is a best practice around the country, especially in larger cities, for dealing with gun violence and other group-related violent crime in the community. Originally, we had planned to fund this program for 3 years using ARPA funds, or at least request ARPA funds to fund this project. And then we found this other opportunity that could free up the ARPA money for something else. And we were fortunate enough to be awarded this grant. So we're pretty excited about the possibilities here. This program eventually, once it's set up, will not live in the police department. It'll live in the development department, which is also a pretty standard practice for violence prevention offices like this in other jurisdictions, that they aren't in the police department. Usually they are somewhere else in city government.
So I had 2 questions when I looked at this, and that was one of them. I thought the police department was conspicuously absent in the org chart. So can you, well, that might be the case elsewhere. Can you help us understand why?
Yeah, that's by design, and the reason why you normally want that is what an OVP model usually looks like is you'll have a program manager and then either contract or employed resources to go out into the community and do violence interruption, and it can really be an impediment to that work if those people are seen as employees of the police department, and they might be seen as, intelligence sources basically for the police, and it's a lot harder for them to develop those relationships with the players in the community that we're trying to reach. So that's why normally in entities like the one we intend to work with to do the technical assistance to set this up, will tell you that it can be lethal to a program like this actually to put it in the police department. And that doesn't mean that we don't interact with it and that we're not involved with it, but that's like an important element of one of these programs.
No, it makes sense, and it just needed someone to connect the dots for us on that.
Sure.
And then the second question I had is regarding budget. So is this a fully funded program for the grant for the first 3 years? Are you expecting any levy spending on this? And then what is the plan once the grant is done?
So it is intended to be fully funded for 3 years, and we will have a decision to make at some point in year 3 as a city whether we want to continue this program. And it's hard to forecast into the future. Some of that I would anticipate would depend on what gun violence is like in our community. But yes, that would be one of the things that would come down the road is, we would be asking council to make a decision about whether to fund this. You're talking about $250,000 a year, and probably less than that, because the $1 million spread out over 3 years includes about $150,000 or so for that technical assistance to set up the program. So it would be $50,000 less, because we wouldn't need that presumably once we had it up and running.
Okay, it's 2 positions, is that right?
It would be 1 position for a program manager, and then probably the way we would want to do this here is have that program manager be responsible for getting a contract with a service provider to actually employ the violence prevention people in the community, instead of trying to hire those ourselves and keep those employees.
Wasn't there like a data person though, or are you going to outsource that as well?
Data was going to be provided by the police department, a crime analyst,
Oh, okay, so that's using existing
using
resources.
existing resources.
Got it, okay. I think it's a great opportunity. I think this is what we were asking for. You know, and just like anything, right? You see this happen a lot where, not just here, but any organization where grant funding comes in and supports a program, and then you hit this cliff where you don't know how to fund it after that. And you know, I prefer that we don't even wait till year 3, you know, you know, I don't think that always has to mean growing the levy. It could mean a redistribution of existing resources too, depending on the priorities that we have. And my hope is that the priority-based budgeting helps us get our arms around some of that discussion. I know that hopefully will be in place by then, and, you know, we'll be able to have meaningful dialogue around that. So, Derek?
Okay, a couple questions. So, will we have some, like a better idea of a budget prior to our city council meeting? Because, I mean, I'm reading through there, and there's not like real numbers here or like projected numbers for the operating costs.
We can provide that budget to you if you'd like. I mean, it was kind of we know it's going to change, I guess, the
Okay.
entire budget when it's set out. But there was one that we can send out to you.
Okay, I was just curious.
It's going to be, but
Well, because under like some of the not allowable and then facility and administrative costs, it says will be limited to 10%. So when you say it's fully funded, but then there's limitations, I just wondered about how that looks.
will those admin costs cover some of my time or the chief's time or internal staff that are putting our time towards that grant?
Okay.
So that's where we added that potential for admin charged against that.
And then it says not allowable facilities, enforcement personnel, facilities, or equipment. So,
Right, we can't fund the police department with the funding.
okay.
Is the point with that.
And there's already a building
Yes.
Yes,
currently.
the Old North Community Policing Center is where the office will be located.
Okay.
But yeah, there should be, I mean, we had to do a pretty comprehensive budget for the grant submission, so.
Yeah, we can send that out.
Thank you.
Alder Galvin?
The crime analysis position, do we still have 2 crime analysis
We do.
people? How much time do you think they're going to be spending per week on this?
It's probably most of the time they'll be spending on this is time they would be spending anyway, tracking gun violence. And they may get some specific data requests just depending on the needs of the program as it goes on. But really, I mean, we do so much work and they spend so much of their time getting into the details of gun violence. It's probably not a huge add to their work.
And my memory was they were always pretty darn busy.
Yeah, they still are.
And I just hate to see them get overwhelmed if there's a way of alleviating that. But, okay, and like you said, you're right. It's going to be a lot of the same information just being put back out again. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Now we'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second. We have a motion by Galvin, a second by Brunette. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, item number 2 for consideration is possible action on accepting the 2022, fiscal year 2022 micro grants community policing development solicitation for $40,331.24. Oh, I'm reading number 3, sorry. I've got, the sun is like shining on my screen and I can't see
We
it.
can both blank.
No, I'll just tip it back, we're good. All right, sorry guys, I'm gonna redo this. Number 2, for consideration and possible action on accepting the 2022 BGA FY 2022 Edward Brin Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program for $56,093. Any questions? It's kind of laid out what it was for. Okay, entertain a motion then?
Motion approved.
We have a motion by Hutchinson, second by Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, sorry, we're going to do this again. For consideration as possible action on accepting the 2022 fiscal year 2022 micro grants community policing development solicitation for $40,331.24. Looks like the same pot of money, huh?
A little different.
But you don't have to speak to it
I'll come
unless
back
there's
if you need
questions.
me to.
Unless you want to speak to it. You look
Happy to
excited.
answer any questions.
Yeah. Yeah, good job, PD, for getting these. All right, need a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion by Galvin, a second by Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. For consideration, number 4, for consideration and possible action to approve a lease by the Wisconsin Department of Administration for office space at 315 South Barrett Street beginning June 1st, 2023. Annual rent will be $13,684.32 in year 1, $13,923.80 in year 2, and $14,167.46 year 3 for the initial 3-year term. The lease may be renewed for 2 successive 3-year periods with an annual increase of 1.75%.
That's still probation and parole.
What's it?
It's probation and parole renting that. I have no questions.
That's a heck of a generous escalator. I'm just saying, in today's marketplace, those escalators are a lot more aggressive than that. I'm not saying we've got to renegotiate that, but I understand there's a partnership there.
Yeah, this is revenue coming into the city.
Right. So,
Motion approved. Second.
motion by Galvin, a second by Hutchison. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 5, for consideration of possible action, adopt a resolution urging local government funding reform, including but not limited to shared revenue, requesting the state consider surplus distributions to local municipalities for investments in public safety and infrastructure needs. This was communication I submitted. It was previously on our agenda. We referred it to staff. This is obviously the resolution before us that I had submitted a draft from the League of Municipalities over the Law Department. Law Department came back with just, I think, some minor revisions. I'm good with what's here. The only thing missing, and again, I don't feel compelled to necessarily amend it, but it's this acknowledgement that the current structure really forces local municipalities to go into debt when you don't have the ability to generate, or you have to exclusively generate your income off of property taxes. And you're seeing that across the state of Wisconsin right now. But overall, I think, look, I mean, every municipality, every government's probably passing these. And it's really about, as the state is doing their budget and working on the shared revenue model, which there is an appetite from not only the governor's office, but the legislature. They are actively discussing this, and this is just really, I think, for us, putting some numbers to this that illustrate what's going on in the city of Green Bay. Alder Burnett?
Thank you for that background. My main question was who wrote it? And you're saying that this is a draft prepared or offered by the Wisconsin League of Municipalities.
Correct.
The Law Department edited it a little bit.
Yeah, we put numbers in here that were specific to our city.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did notice, we know the thing about resolutions is that there's no guarantee anyone will take this seriously, but if more municipalities keep passing these resolutions, it brings it to a level of visibility that perhaps we don't currently have. I will say that some of the language, I don't know if this is the league's language or our edits, very strongly worded, which again is probably a good thing for a resolution, but some things I had kind of struggled with without knowing how other municipalities function, because there could be some, and I think I mentioned this in the past, there could be some municipalities that are growing, that are expanding their economic base, that don't have the historic infrastructure needs that Green Bay currently is experiencing. They could be doing just fine with the current formula. So we're writing this from Green Bay's perspective, where I don't know if we know how every other municipality that's growing, if they're facing the same issue.
Yeah, and I'll respond to that. And I forget, Attorney Bunkert, your staff attorney that actually worked on this and sent it to me.
Yes. Attorney Wood.
Attorney Wood, yep.
Voted.
But he said, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I can't remember his first name. But he said, hey, this one's worded stronger. He said, if you'd like to see it more or less watered down, you know, he could do that. And I said, well, I said, let's leave it this way. And if anybody at the committee level and subsequently council wants to amend it and soften that, you're welcome to do so. I think to your point, though, the League of Municipalities is really looking to make a statement. This is one of their top agenda items right now, because there's an opportunity, it's ripe. Both bodies of our government are willing to negotiate on this. So I think what they're likely going to do is dump these in aggregate and say, X number of cities, you know, supported resolutions that said this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Again, if you want to change some words, I'm honestly okay with that.
I can go along and support it tonight. Curious what other council members feel. I'm not against strongly worded language. This one stuck out in how strongly worded it is. And anyways, so.
Okay, any discussion?
Move to approve or forward.
Move to approve, that's good. By Hutchinson, a second by Galvin. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 6, report of the Claims Committee. Anything here that needs to be pulled and discussed? No good? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept or approve the report.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Brunette, a second by Hutchinson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item F, informational 2023 contingency account stands at $244,000, $244,643.36. The next Finance Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Galvin, second by Brunette. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Yeah, both meetings done in 25 minutes.
Wow.
You tried a little harder, but.
Parks and INS, you have been challenged.